Welcome back to Ephemeral Eyes, friend. Get ready for the 4th episode of the Galaxy Plan. Now, I know you're eager to dive back into the cosmos. Here is a short recap. Sahmi and Koriz, cast out of their ethereal prison, a colossal, abandoned dome, returned to a changed world. 8 years they drifted, bodiless. Now, the reborn relic calls Sahmi home. Kuyrit, a brilliant scientist with a forbidden secret, faces the wrath of Naal's government. Her crime, creating a perfect replica of her son, Rodig. Now she must face the government agents. Episode 4. Child of Darkness. In a cavernous void filled with the pseudo-vacuum of the cosmos, a being stirred from eons of slumber. Revived by the dark currents in which it had dissolved countless ages ago, it had undergone a cryptic evolution in the silence and darkness, no longer resembling the life form that once bore its name. Why it was drawn back into physical existence, specifically in this galaxy, remained a mystery. Thus began her exploration through this galaxy she had meticulously planned, a quest to unravel the mechanism responsible for her premature awakening. Her metamorphosis was incomplete, and vestiges of her original emotions clouded her judgment, obscuring the truth. A setback. Her plan had been disrupted. What had she failed to foresee? With unimaginable speed, she expanded consciousness, leaped from one micro-singularity to the next. Within a network of dark energy that spanned the cosmos, she accessed a realm stretching from her birthplace to a few neighboring galaxies. The scope was disappointing, a far cry from her grand expectations. Sleep was not a gentle descent, but a violent unraveling of the known. The sphere's hum warped into a discordant thrum, its whispers twisting into a chorus of screeching echoes. Fear, a disembodied entity, slithered through his awareness, a primal terror of the abyss. Fragments of memory flickered like moths, drawn to a dying flame. The warmth of a mother's embrace, a father's comforting laughter, the reassuring weight of Koriz's hand. These echoes of humanity grew fainter, swallowed by the encroaching void. The world dissolved into a maelstrom of colors and patterns, a symphony of sensations that defied comprehension. He tumbled through a space where up and down ceased to exist, where time spiraled and contorted like a writhing serpent. The sphere's secrets unveiled themselves not as words or images, but as a torrent of abstract experiences. He felt the pulsing rhythm of creation, the chilling embrace of entropy, the interconnectedness of all things woven into an intricate tapestry of light and shadow. Waves of existential dread washed over him, a yearning for the comforting boundaries of his physical form, the familiar sensations of touch and warmth. But these were but distant memories, fading echoes in the vast expanse of the unknown. His disembodied consciousness stretched and warped, seeking purchase in a reality that defied all logic. He glimpsed fleeting patterns that hinted at a deeper order, a hidden language that spoke of a universe far grander and more complex than he could ever have imagined. The echoes of his past life, the laughter, the tears, the pain, the joy, grew fainter, replaced by an all-consuming sense of wonder and terror. He was a lone traveler in a boundless ocean of consciousness, adrift in a sea of infinite possibility. The sphere's energy pulsed through him, a relentless tide that threatened to dissolve his very essence. He yearned for the familiar, the comforting embrace of sleep, the sweet oblivion of the unconscious. But the sphere held him captive, its power both a torment and a revelation. He was forced to confront the raw truth of existence, the endless cycle of birth and death, the terrifying beauty of the unknown. And as the light of the sphere reached its zenith, he felt a profound sense of acceptance wash over him. The fear that had once consumed him transformed into a quiet awe, a deep understanding that he was but a tiny fragment in an eternal dance of creation and destruction. In the maelstrom of sensations, a glimmer of clarity emerged. A realization dawned upon Sahmi. This wasn't a dream, but a perception of reality filtered through an impossibly heightened awareness. The sphere had amplified his senses, granting him a glimpse beyond the limitations of human understanding. With newfound focus, he began to sift through the overwhelming influx of information. The chaotic patterns resolved into intricate structures, the discordant echoes harmonized into a symphony of vibrations. He traced the threads of energy that connected everything, from the smallest subatomic particle to the vast expanse of the cosmos. Amidst the swirling tapestry, a tiny speck flickered into existence. It was his planet, a minuscule sphere pulsing with life. He zoomed in, his perception narrowing, until he saw the familiar walls of the research lab, the bed where his body lay dormant, the concerned faces of Koriz, Nyara, and Kieran gathered around him. But amidst the symphony of life, a discordant note resonated, a dark and ominous presence lurking in the shadows. It felt eerily familiar, a haunting echo from the depths of his subconscious. A cold, calculating consciousness, observing, controlling, perhaps even responsible for the planet's descent into chaos. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, Sahmi reached out towards the darkness, his awareness brushing against its edges. A wave of revulsion washed over him, a visceral sense of wrongness that chilled him to his core. It was a presence devoid of warmth, a calculating observer that seemed to dissect and analyze his every thought and emotion. He sensed a silent question emanating from the darkness. "Who are you to pry into my domain?" It was an almost human emotion he felt emanating from the entity, yet infinitely more intricate and disturbing. The moment he attempted to probe further, the darkness recoiled, as if offended by his intrusion. His expanded perception began to fracture, the vibrant tapestry of the universe shrinking and fading. Each contraction sent a jolt of pain through his being, a nauseating sensation that threatened to shatter his sanity. The symphony of sensations dwindled into a cacophony of discordant notes. The colors bled into a dull gray. The intricate patterns dissolved into meaningless chaos. Sahmi felt himself shrinking, his awareness retreating back into the confines of his human form. Final moments of his heightened perception were agonizing, each step back towards normalcy a blow to the head. The world contracted around him, the vast expanse of the cosmos reduced to the four walls of the laboratory. The sensation of returning to his body was akin to being squeezed through a narrow tunnel, every nerve ending screaming in protest. He gasped for breath as his consciousness snapped back into place, the remnants of the sphere's influence clinging to the edges of his mind. Exhaustion washed over him, a bone-deep weariness that seeped into his very soul. He collapsed back onto the bed, his body trembling with the aftershocks of the experience. The darkness closed in, swallowing him whole, and he succumbed to a dreamless sleep. As he gradually surfaced from the depths of unconsciousness, Sahmi's eyes fluttered open to find a woman sitting beside him. He couldn't place her face, but her presence felt strangely comforting, like a half-forgotten memory of warmth and love. She held his hand gently, her gaze both sorrowful and filled with an unyielding hope. "You're home now, my child," her voice soft as a lullaby washed over him. "Home with me." In the background, a familiar figure moved about the room, their face obscured in the dim light. The scent of herbs and spices wafted through the air, a comforting aroma that grounded Sahmi in the present. "What happened? It was just the first step," the woman continued, her voice filled with a gentle warmth. "A step towards a reunion that was written in the stars long ago." Sahmi tried to raise himself up on his elbows, but his body felt leaden and unresponsive. The room spun around him, and the woman's words became a jumble of soothing sounds. He reached out to her, seeking answers, but his hand fell limply back onto the bed. "Rest now, child," the woman whispered, her fingers brushing against his cheek. "There is so much to discover, so much to understand. But for now, just rest." Sahmi drifted back into a deep slumber, the woman's enigmatic words echoing in his mind. When he awoke again, the woman was gone. The familiar figure now stood beside him, their face illuminated by the morning light. It was Koriz, the old healer and shaman, his eyes filled with concern. "How are you feeling, Sahmi?" Koriz asked, his voice gruff yet gentle. "Where is the woman?" Sahmi asked, his voice barely a whisper. "There was no woman, Sahmi," Koriz replied, his brow furrowed in confusion. "You were alone." Sahmi tried to explain the encounter, the woman's cryptic words, but the memory seemed to fade with each passing moment. Koriz listened patiently, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. "You activated the artifact, Sahmi," Koriz said, his voice barely audible. "The researchers think you were some kind of a catalyst for a chain reaction that takes place now within the structure. I think they're waiting for you there." Kuyrit held Rodig's hand. They didn't have to wait long. A moment after the Planet Brain's announcement, the spherical capsule, just big enough for the two passengers, transformed into a spacious cube with the same matty metal surface. A portal opened and a figure emerged, unlike any they had ever seen. Many inhabitants of Nowell would be difficult for Earth humans to assign a gender to. But even to the seasoned eyes of Kuyrit and Rodig, this being was neither clearly male nor female. Nowell had a neutral gender, but this being had exaggerated sexual characteristics in both directions. A prominent Adam's apple, long eyelashes, a female trait on Nowell, large breasts, pronounced musculature, distinctly male on Nowell, and a voice that was gentle, deep, yet melodically feminine. "My name is Hing Robak Stick, and I am here on behalf of my dynasty." The name suggested it was a male. Kuyrit was grateful for this information. Who knew how the conversation would have started if they had addressed a dynasty member with the wrong gender? "It is a pleasure to make your acquaintance," said Kuyrit. "Great pleasure," added Rodig. Robak Stick of the Hing dynasty sat on an invisible object, hovering at the same level as mother and son. He approached slowly, studying them with an eager gaze. "We have discovered something about this family before me," he said expectantly. Kuyrit tried to control her emotions, but she also knew Robak Stick could surely sense every vital sign. Lying was not an option for Kuyrit, so she yielded, hoping this meeting would lead to a negotiation. Why else would a member of the elite personally handle the interrogation instead of a facet of the Planet Brain? "Please, may we excuse the boy for a moment? I wish him to remain unaware." As soon as she uttered the first part of the request, Rodig was put into stasis. Frozen in time, the world would briefly make no sense to him, but he was now unconscious for the duration. Robak Stick, seated, was taller than Kuyrit, who straightened up to show respect. "What can I do? I know there's a reason for our meeting." The face of Hing Robak Stick, covered in blue and gold lines and with bright red pupils, contorted, displaying emotion. Kuyrit felt like she was talking to an android simulating feelings. Robak Stick seemed a bit too pleased with her question. His voice was softer and an octave higher than before. "It is forbidden to copy a human. To my knowledge, no one has ever succeeded in copying a human, and my family has distributed numerous contracts to capable replicators. This boy does not carry the same genetic signature as you, Gustika Kuyrit. The analysis revealed that there is only one way this could be possible." He paused, floating closer to Rodig, touching him with his large hand, stroking him, and smelling his hair. Then he grabbed the boy's neck and turned Rodig's head towards Kuyrit, who was forced back into her seat by fear. "Gustika Rodig is a copy. A brilliant copy. He must be destroyed by law because the question of the soul remains unanswered," said Robak Stick in an even deeper voice than at the beginning. Then he released the boy, who, due to stasis, remained in position, staring blankly at his creator. Kuyrit couldn't find any mental foothold. She was lost. The arbitrariness of this being made her compliant. "There must be a way," she breathed, more than spoke. Hing Robak Stick stood up and came so close to her face that she could see tiny fractal patterns moving and pulsing on the colored lines of his face, normally invisible. "We will withdraw and deliberate. The boy comes with us and remains in stasis." We expect you to detail the process that led to the creation of this copy." The boy floated past Kuyrit, transitioning into a reclining position with closed eyes, and left the metal cube before Hing Robok's stick. Kuyrit watched him, unable to feel anything she would let show. Robok's stick left the room, and Kuyrit remained motionless for about an Earth hour. A long time ago on Garden, a planet torn apart by centuries of war. The rain hammered down, transforming the gentle orange-brown landscape into a treacherous bog within minutes. Radam crouched low, the tall grass concealing her from her pursuers. A flash of lightning illuminated the sky, casting eerie shadows that danced across the muddy terrain. She pressed a hand against her chest, feeling the familiar ache of guilt. Another life taken, another soul lost to the endless war that ravaged her world. "I never wanted this," she thought bitterly, the image of her latest victim flashing before her eyes. But there was no time for remorse. The Sovereign Collective were closing in, their relentless pursuit fueled by a thirst for power and a disdain for the spiritual traditions Radami held dear. She pushed herself up, her adaptive armor clinging to her like a second skin. The suit hummed softly, masking her heat signature, muffling her footsteps, making her a phantom in the twilight. A veteran of countless battles, Radami knew salvation was within reach, yet she also knew the commandos on her trail were the deadliest she had ever faced. Her only hope lay in this extraordinary storm which had quickly submerged her knee-deep in mud. In the darkening orange hues of twilight, her movements were imperceptible, hidden by the towering grass blades that reached far above her head when she stood upright. The sky pulsed with lightning, each flash momentarily brighter than the midday sun. Radami's all-purpose armor shielded her vitals, body heat, pressure differentials, and sounds from the outside world. The only way she could be detected was by the deep black of the armor, which enveloped her entire body like a thin film of matte black mercury. As the storm intensified, the ground beneath her feet turned into a sucking quagmire. She stumbled, her armor momentarily losing its grip on the slick mud. A surge of panic welled up within her, but she quickly regained her footing, her training kicking in. She knew she couldn't outrun her pursuers forever. She had to find a way to lose them, to buy herself enough time to deliver the vital information she carried. A flicker of an idea sparked in her mind. It was a risky gambit, but it might be her only chance. She glanced at the towering trees that lined the edge of the valley, their branches swaying wildly in the wind. With a burst of adrenaline, Radami broke into a run, heading towards the dense forest. If she could reach the canopy, she might be able to disappear among the shadows, leaving her pursuers floundering in the mud below. She moved as quickly as possible, yet as slowly as necessary, pausing and remaining still with each lightning strike, hoping to be mistaken for a rock or mound of earth. The fine orange grass turned nearly transparent under the electric glow, while rocks and animals appeared as dark silhouettes in the white floodlight of the sky's fury. With the optical systems of their combat armor, both Radami and her pursuers could analyze details far more thoroughly than with the naked eye. To her left, a Tala ape danced frantically in the rain. The ape, roughly human-sized, began to calm down, squatting to examine something on the ground. Radami remained motionless, her adaptive armor shifting into a fractal geometry that resembled a rock. The armor warned her of the next lightning strike. A moment later it came. The ape startled and was instantly hit in the temple by a projectile. It was a test. Radami's armor would absorb a headshot, but the subsequent volley of plasma lances would obliterate her. No plasma followed. She now counted 13 to 14 pursuers based on her Shadow AI's calculations of projectile trajectories. A map emerged, showing their likely movement routes. Radami sprinted until the next lightning warning, then dropped to the ground. She could only hope the lead was large enough to reach the Delta and the Sanctuary base. Her hunters, rotating between observing and pausing, were closing in. Without reinforcements, they would have either reached Radami by nightfall or accidentally hit and destroyed her. Any communication from her would trigger a full plasma volley. Radami ran, her legs burning. She activated a muscle enhancement, injecting synthetic fibers that amplified her strength and eliminated pain. It was a desperate measure, one with severe consequences, but survival was paramount. She ran with inhuman speed, a human projectile. Another lightning warning. She dropped. No reaction. She continued, the distance to the next flash growing longer. She crouched in the mud, holding her breath. No shot, no falling rock, no dead animal. The realization hit her. The Sovereign Collective was closing in, their experience allowing them to identify the anomalies caused by her shifting armor. Her next move could be her last. So she held her position, letting the lightning flash and fade around her, praying for the cover of darkness to fall. The calculated map showed that she was now losing less distance with each forced pause. Then she stopped again. No reaction from the pursuers. She ran on, this time with more time until the next lightning strike. The probing shots now came in shorter intervals. Plasma volley, not too far from where she was crouching motionlessly in the deep mud. They were now probably close enough to her position to recognize the suddenly appearing and disappearing rocks as an anomaly. If her pursuers were experienced enough, Radami's next change in position would likely be her undoing. So she held her position, letting the lightning come and go. As she had anticipated, 3 figures of the elite unit came within range, then 6 more. One figure relentlessly closed in on Radami's position. Another followed as backup. Radami calculated her odds. She had one chance. She had to win the inevitable fight against these warriors and survive long enough for a rescue team to be alerted. Suddenly, the temperature plummeted. The balmy air turned frigid, frost forming on the mud and encasing the grass blades in ice. A deep rumble echoed through the valley, and her armor's shadow AI indicated a new storm front rapidly approaching. This storm originated behind her pursuers, who were visibly caught off guard. Most paused to analyze the incoming threat, but the figure closest to Radami pressed on. The rumble intensified, and Radami felt the storm's power as vibrations through her shock-absorbing suit. In a split second, she activated her weapons as the storm engulfed the first pursuers. A tentacle of liquid metal erupted from her suit, piercing the head of an elite soldier at half the speed of light. Her armor injected a serum to protect her body from the sudden acceleration. Now, Radami was under fire. Multiple weapon systems locked onto her. She leaped into the air, aided by her suit's active systems, firing plasma bursts at the targets her instruments provided. She took out 2 of the 6 before another volley intersected her trajectory as she fell back to the ground. Tentacles shot out, pulling her back to Earth with incredible speed, protecting her from the plasma. From above, it looked as if the storm swallowed the sea of grass. 3 figures vanished from her map, shredded by the electrical discharges. A wall of electricity surged towards her, each tendril of lightning wreaking havoc upon contact with the ground. Radami catapulted herself forward, her armor extending her legs, increasing her speed tenfold. 7 active hostiles remained. She dodged their fire, but they were too preoccupied with the storm to focus on the hunt. 2 fighter jets approached, their sonic booms reverberating through the valley. Radami contacted the base. The chase was over. She almost collapsed but held herself on her feet, fueled by numerous stimulants. A small transport, now in open communication with her, landed behind her. She glanced back, the deaths of those she had killed heavy on her conscience. From her elevated position, she watched as the fighter jets eliminated the remaining targets in the valley. Then one of the jets was caught in the lightning, sent spiraling out of control. It barely regained stability before following its companion back to base. That same evening, Radami found herself within the Cathedral of Light. Not a literal cathedral, but a mid-sized city nestled amidst a nearly impenetrable jungle. For over 500 years, it had served as the capital, a sanctuary, the control center, and the anchor for all members of the Convergence, their families, and those who embraced their harmonious blend of science and spirituality. Now, her shattered body needed time to mend. A full day of regrowth and replacement, followed by a careful period of reactivation, ensuring every neural pathway fired as brightly as before. She still held on to the invaluable intel about the sphere found in the jungle. A sphere, she knew, held a secret that would change the course of Garden's history. Thank you for listening. Hope to see you again, friend.